Hey friends, my name is Jake. Welcome to Canadian Cutting Edge. This is the end of April 2021, and I'm showing you my collection of knives. Turns out I've got more than I thought I had. I don't keep all my knives in one spot. I keep most of them in an Ikea cabinet, and I'll show you a picture of it. It's a narrow cabinet with not very deep shelves. Not narrow. Narrow as in the shelf depth. The shelf depth isn't very high, so it's really good for just laying a bunch of knives down. I also keep some of my knife collection, my knife tool stuff in there as well. But I have to keep some of my knives also in an old dresser just to help keep myself organized. Small dresser. So, turns out there's just a hint over, I think there's 92 knives in this collection, which, yeah, that surprised me. But when I looked through them, I laid them all out on my bed. There's actually some that I thought I had that I don't have. And that's because I don't always remember which ones I had to sell on, which ones I didn't. I've reviewed well over 1,000 knives on this channel. And most of them, at least 90% of them, over 90% of them, I have had to sell on to keep the channel going. And other times when, financially it just got so tight I had to sell off pretty much my whole collection. So most of the stuff is from the last 3 years. Actually, 2.5 years is more like it. But a couple things are from a little bit longer that I just would not sell and I've kept longer. So without any further ado, let me give you the overshot view and then we'll get to a tabletop to take a look at these. Well, here we go. We'll do a flyby. There's my fixed blades. Most of those are real steel. And here's my SANRENMU stuff. Well, there's also real steel folding knives there. SANRENMU stuff. Some more SANRENMU down here. And then GANZO. And Tucson, a couple Civivis, some other stuff. QSP on the end there, just 4 of them. And some more like one-off kind of stuff here. Oh, that GANZO doesn't belong there. That GANZO belongs up there. Put that N-land there. And these 2 GANZOs go up there too. And some of my small stuff. And then there's something special in there. So let's go to the tabletop. I'm not going to name each and every knife. That would just take too long, but you'll be able to see a close-up shot of each of these. Well, to start things off, we've got this knife. This is a semi-custom. And no, I don't have a video on this knife. I thought I did, but no, I don't. I bought this knife, I don't know, 5-6 years ago, something like that, from houseofknives.ca. They were having a clearance on these knives. This was an open box clearance, and this knife had an issue with the grind, the sharpening grind, that is. The main grind, pretty good. So yeah, I got a really good deal on this. I think it was like $130, something like that. They were originally $3.99. So yeah, quite nice. Cocobolo, micarta here, a canvas micarta. 13C26 stainless steel. That's like AEB-L stainless steel, very similar. It's quite a nice knife. If you want me to do a video on this, let me know. Here's some information. There you go. Marzitelli Custom Knives in Langley, British Columbia. And this one's called the Eagle Light. This is called a brown camo sheath. They riveted it in 4 places, and then they used screws. And that's the show side. And there's the belt loop. It's a heavy, full-grain leather sheath, and holds the knife snugly in there. And it's pretty tight, but you can get a belt through there. It just needs to be broken in. I've rarely used this knife at all. Oh, it does have a little bit of a lanyard hole. Quite nice. I do also have some kitchen cooking knives. I'm not going to show you those, but there's some that I reviewed that I kept of those. A couple sword knives. This is the Kiwi. I've put the wooden handle scales on here. I had a Peasant Mini that I got in wood very recently, and I swapped them around and put the wood handle on the Kiwi. Comes with this sheath, 3.5-inch blade. What's that, 7 centimeters? 9 centimeters. Silly Jake. 9-centimeter blade. So quite nice. And another sword is the DP 4 3/4. So that's 4 3/4 inches, which is just over 11 centimeters, 11.4 or whatever. Wood handle. The rat tail tang comes most of the way, it's actually not a rat tail tang, but the tang goes most of the way to the end, and 3 brass pins through it. And it's actually a very comfortable, good user. And this knife will probably be in a future knife sale. I've had it in knife sales in the past and nobody bought it, but it's actually a very nice user knife. 15N20 stainless steel. Carbon steel. 15N20 carbon steel on here. Here as well, 15N20. I got another custom knife. This is from a guy in Spruce Grove, Alberta. That's just west of Edmonton. My daughter lives in Spruce Grove. The company's West Knives. He was at a gun and knife show in the town where I live. And I started talking to him, told him about what I do, and he offered to give me this knife. So, yeah, he gave me this knife. I've hardly used it. I should have written down, I forget what steel this is, but his own leather sheath. He was selling it for $295, and he gave it to me. I think he had it for a long time, and it never sold. I think it was way overpriced. I wouldn't mind selling this, too. If there's somebody that wants this, let me know. I'd give you a really good price on it. This handle is especially comfortable in left hands. Just the way it's made, at least in my left hand, it's very comfortable. In the right hand, it's comfortable as well, but I don't feel like I've got enough power behind the blade in my right hand as I do in my left. In the left, I feel like there's a lot more power behind the blade. And maybe that's why it didn't sell, because there's a whole lot of right-handers, but not many left-handers out there. We've got this knife here, this Schnitzel, the Do, and very nice. I reviewed this quite recently, so you can see the video on this knife. G10 14C28N, a nice Scandi grind here. Beautiful, beautiful knife. And really nice sheath system as well. Quite like this. The only thing is, and I'm keeping this one for the main, I wrecked the sheath by cutting into the side of the sheath. You'll see that in the video. So I can't always push it in quite right. Got another semi-custom. This is by David Mary Custom. That's who made this. I did this video recently. It was a 3-knife video. There's a camp series of knives that were designed by a good knife company, a guy in the United States. He designed it and made in Canada at David Mary Custom. This is the small knife of the camp series, and AEB-L stainless steel blade, convex grind, and no, I won't be selling this. No, I won't. Very nice. It's got this G10 that's got layers of G10 and layers of rubber in it. A dense rubber. Makes for a really good grip. We've got this guy, the SANRENMU S745, also reviewed not too terribly long ago. Very comfortable knife in hand. Good cutter. Just really, really like it. 14C28N stainless steel. And beautiful. Also comes with a black handle. Nice sheath system too. And then we've got the Opinel designed knives for real steel. This is, what's the name of this one? Starts with an M. I'll put it, I decided I will do that list, and it's going to take me an awful lot more time. It's already taken me a long time to record this. I'm re-recording this fixed blade section because the video just turned out very, very poorly. Marlin. This is the Marlin, and it's a nice little boot knife, belt knife, well, maybe not belt knife, neck knife. Just thin, nice thing, you know, with or without the paracord wrap. Quite nice. The next bigger one is this one, 9C or 18 MOV stainless steel. Arbiter, I think that's the name of it. One thing that you see in most of Opinel's knives is, especially the fixed blades, this little notch just before the thumb rest. So, quite like this. It's designed or sold as a neck knife with a chain, but you certainly could put a something like a Alti clip or clips that are like it and use this on your belt or pocket. All of these knives with the G10 handle scales have a lanyard option at the end of the handle. Instead of through the handle, it's at the end. Quite like these. And then there's this one, the Metamorph series. 14C 28N stainless steel. Fairly grippy handle. Just very well made knife. And again, lanyard option right at the end. Also as a neck knife, that's how it's sold. But certainly you're not limited to carrying it that way. Really good sheath on this. It holds it really, really well. And then this one, now I've totally forgotten the name of this one. It's probably in their Bushcraft series. I liked how pointy this is. Instead of having the sort of radius and then a long straight edge, this one's got a really good point to it. Scandi grind, of course. A unique kind of sharpener's toil. Just fits in the hand really well. There's his notch. And with this style tip here, it's really good for digging into things. You know, it's a thick stock. This is a strong knife. And, you know, with the shallow grind angles here, this just cuts into things like wood, hard things, hard materials really, really well. It's a good knife for bushcrafting. I really like the belt system for the belt loop and Kydex sheath. It's just, it works really well. Opinel is my favorite designer, so I won't be selling any of these real steel knives that you see here. This one's also 9C or 18 MOV, so it's a little more budget. Again, I forget the name of it. Oh, my brain just doesn't work that well for memory of those things. Nice full flat grind. There's his funky sharpener's toil. The plunge is really gradual, so the sharpener's toil needs to come that far out, so I don't mind it. I wouldn't mind a quicker plunge, but this is a big, you know, camp knife. This, yeah, that's a big knife. Rounded spine, jimping right here. And again, that belt system with the snaps. It's man-made material, not leather up here. And on this one, they did a really good job putting a good flat spot for your thumb to push off of right there. So, like that, and you push it off. Okay, so that's my fixed blade knives. And these are my tiny knives. Believe it or not, this is my only Best Tech. The Best Tech Tulip, my only Best Tech that I have at all. I'd really love to have a whole lot more, but I've not reviewed all that many Best Tech knives. And since I'm a collector of O-Step Hell stuff, I made sure I got this knife. It also comes as a frame lock. So slip joint or frame lock, exactly the same dimensions. Beautiful, beautiful knife. Nice pocket clip. I like this a lot. I've got a couple of the classics, SD Classic Victorinox knives. If you don't know what these are, then you need to get one for your collection. It's a scissor, a pen blade, a nail file, little flat driver there. There's also a little toothpick thing and little pliers. And these come in so many different color options. One of my viewers from Finland sent me this one. So yeah, I got to keep this one. Yeah, that's very nice. Tucson. This guy. Oh, forget the number. The Tucson numbers, I'd much rather have names, but titanium, carbon fiber. It's got a cool lanyard option or tie-off option right there. S90V blade, slip joint, very strong back spring. Look how thick that back spring is. No wonder it's so strong. Wish they would have made this a bit lighter, made the back spring a little thinner, made the whole thing a little bit thinner, the tang of the blade a little thinner. You know, this thing is so thick. You could take this thing and take a mallet and smash it through some really dense material, that's for sure. So, I like it, and I'm keeping it. We've got one Fura knife that I'm keeping. It's a little flipper. These are no longer available as far as I know. I have a few other Fura knives that I'm going to continue giving away. When I do my Patreon giveaways, every month one of my Patreon supporters wins a knife or a flashlight, whatever, something that I reviewed in the previous month. And I almost always, unless I forget, but then I make it up, but I always add something extra. So it's very often a small knife or some other knife. This is an NLAN knife with 12C27. This is the EW 148-2. EW 148-2. Kind of hard to find. I think that's rosewood. It's got a flipper and a polished blade. 12C27 wood. The screw here broke. It got stripped out and it broke on the inside, so it doesn't look that great there. I've used some crazy glue to glue it all together. So yeah, this is one that I'm definitely keeping, but I carry this on my keychain every once in a while. You know what this looks like. See, that's a wing. There's some other small knives that have this same kind of styling. And not sure which came first, but this is not a super new knife. I've had this one for almost 5 years. So, nice liner lock. I like it. And the rest of these are SANRENMU. Yes. This is a 4097. It comes in a number of different handle patterns, not just this red one with the gears. You've got other patterns completely, but the exact same knife. It's a lockback knife, and you can take the pocket clip off if you want to. So thumb stud deployment, lockback, very convenient, robust. This one I like quite a lot. This is the 4095 SUX. It's a flat grind on there, a saber grind. I've got the pocket clip taken off this as well. It's got, comes with this kind of pocket clip. You see right there. I took it off. I put a little split ring back here and put it on my keychain every once in a while. Yeah, carbon fiber. Quite nice. This guy that I just had, this is the 4112. And I think I've got the 7112 as well. It's the same knife, but bigger. Not a lot bigger, but bigger. comes in a bunch of different colors as well. You can still find it. Full flat grind. Nice knife. Taking the pocket clip off this one as well. It's, again, the same pocket clip as here. This is the 4073. Again, it comes in a number of different colors. Aluminum handle scale. Looks sort of like a wing pattern. And you've got dual side thumb studs. This one, yeah, I'm not sure the name, but it's got a designer name on there. And yeah, it's a slip. So nice little knife. This one, again, same pocket clip that I've taken off because I put these on my keychains. And this is a deeper full flat grind. This is the 4110 SUX. Again, comes in a number of different colors. And again, it's a back spring. And these three, where's my other one? I had another one. Where did I put it? Hold on, I gotta go look for it. I actually found two of them. This is a really small knife by SANRENMU. This is before they did their 4000, 3000 series numbering. It's got a really strong back spring. This is the C97. It had a very, very thin tip that bent the first time I took the knife out. There's still a little bit of a bend on there, and I took the very tip of it off. But yeah, it's a small knife. It's quite usable, but that's a small knife. Not my smallest. I'll show you that in a minute. There's this guy, very big user. This is the 4025. Is that right? Yeah, 4025. It's got a little ant motif on there. And yeah, it's a nice clip point. Well, I guess this is the first one of the year. It's spring again. The door-to-door fundraising has begun. Here we go. I mentioned this knife a little bit. It's quite nice. It's a lockback knife, and it's a really good knife to have on my keychain. Very useful, strong, good grip on it. Nice little knife. This little guy I quite like. Another lockback knife. This is the 4060. Where's my 6040? Did I give it away? Bandit sees the people continuing down the road, so he keeps barking. So yeah, the 4060, I also really like the 6040. The first number is about the size. So the 4060, that's a 4 centimeter blade. So this is a 41 something, so 4 centimeter blade. That's how their numbering system goes. So their 6040 should be a 6 centimeter blade. Anyway, I like this. This is got a hollow grind. It's got a little harpoon style blade and a ribbed handle, G10. Very good grip in the hand. This might be the best one of the little ones in terms of having a secure grip, because there's a big finger choil there. For the size of the knife, it's big. And very good knife to have on a keychain. And this guy, which I really like as well, this is the 6020. So this is supposed to be 6 centimeters, probably 6 centimeters to the handle, not just the cutting edge. Yeah, it's supposed to look a bit like a Spyderco. We've got a little bird flying right there. We've got the Chinese characters for SANRENMU right there. Yes, they're Chinese characters. Don't tell me they're Japanese characters. Some people learn a little bit of Japanese and they think, oh, wait, those are Japanese characters. And they don't realize Japan uses Chinese characters in one of their 3 alphabets. I know I've said this before. If you've been on my channel for a long time, you've heard this a few times. I keep getting people saying, no, that's not Chinese. That's not a Chinese. That's a Japanese. And I go, when I tell them my story, no, a Chinese company puts Chinese characters on their knife because it's made in China for the Chinese market. Bottle opener on the back here, and I put a split ring on here as well. It's not very heavy, good for a keychain. I forgot this little buck. I carry him every once in a while. Hollow grind, Nice little knife. I think this came from a Menards, a special package deal. They had the two knives. It's a good little knife, very light. Again, lock back. So that's pretty much it for my small knives. And wait, I forgot one. It was right behind the camera that I didn't see it. This little Spyderco. I forget what the model number is on this one, but it's a genuine Spyderco. It's the smallest knife that they make. It's a slip joint too. I think it's just 3CR13 or 2CR13, something really soft on the blade. So yeah, not made for a lot of cutting. And I've had some of the other small Spyderco knives as well, more like this size and this size. And I quite like those. The Clip It series, those are nice. I just wish they'd make that series with better steel, because 3CR, yeah, not so much in my wheelhouse. Now we'll get over to the rest of my folding knives, the main collection, the reason you really came here. First off, this. Yeah, I know, it's not a knife. It's a sheath. And my initials, JE. This was custom made for me by a friend of mine. When we first moved to Alberta, it'll be, 13 years ago this year, I lived right next door to a leather worker guy. In fact, he was a really good leather worker guy. When he was a young man, he broke horses. He worked on ranches. He was one of those, he was a real life cowboy. I met him when he was like 82, I think. No, 81. He's in his 90s now. He's still kicking it. He's still making leather goods. And I asked him to make a sheath for me. This was about 5 years ago. And 5 or 6 years ago. And I've changed the knives that I have in here. Well, this knife I've kept the same. This is the SANRENMU 7010, and I've got several other 7010s as well. It's a very good budget knife. 5 years ago, they were under $10, these knives, and now they are closer to 15. You can certainly get them for way more than that, but the lowest cost you can find them is right around 15. And hollow grind on here, 7010. LUC-SA is the most common style. You can also get it in a black wash, and I'll show you a couple of other ways that it has been around. Usually I leave the pocket clip off for in here, but that's where I put it. And then I have a larger knife as well, and I've been carrying this knife in there ever since. It was designed for this knife, actually. This is an Enland EL01. Wooden handle scales. You can find it still, but hardly ever in wood. It's just the G10 handle scale version. It's not a great knife in terms of performance. Open pillar. It's got some nice jimping. And washers. You got to use a little wrist action to open it. But lockup is good. Hand feel, quite good, except for the pocket clip. It gets a little annoying. The edge of it is a little bit hard. But when I carried it in my leather sheath, I kept the pocket clip off. As you can see, I lost one of the screws. That's why one of them's black. But very nice knife. The flipper becomes a really good guard. Yeah, there's no sharpener's choil. 8CR13 MOV. It's a little thick behind the grind. Very robust behind the tip. This is a strong, hard-working knife. So I used to carry it with this in there. Lately, I've been carrying it with this in here. This is the H6 Free. The H6 is the Blue Sheep series. So Real Steel is famous for their Blue Sheep series. If you don't have one of the Blue Sheep knives, they all have this same handle. So the handle here is very comfortable. At least for me, it's super comfortable. This one's got a tip-up or tip-down pocket clip on the right side only. Lanyard tube, nice G10 backspacer. Most of them don't have this style blade. They have, I'll show you. I'll do it right now. they've got this style blade on most of them. The locking ones, they've got the thumb stud, and then they've got this drop point blade, saber grind. Very, very nice. G10 on most of them. This one's carbon fiber shred. This one is available at realsteelshop.com that I told you about in the previous video. I'll leave a link for Real Steel Shop again, a referral link where you get $10 off if you use my link. I think you can get $10 off even if you don't use my link and you go to sign up. But you'll help out my channel if you use my link to sign up, because then I will also get a coupon for future purchases. So that comes in very handy. So this is a really nice knife. As you can see, the handle is identical in terms of its shape and styling. But yeah, this free, any of the Real Steel knives that say free on them, that means that they are two-hand opening. Of course, you can open it with one hand without much difficulty at all. You can't just flick it open with one hand. That's the thing. So, love this knife. 14C28N here. This one, 14C28N as well. Very, very nice indeed. So, Nick, my friend, he after he was a cowboy, he started doing a lot of leather work. Well, even then he was doing leather work. He knows how to do his leather work. This is just a cheap scrap piece of leather, so he decided to make it for me, and I asked him to make, this little knife stand on end so that it wouldn't have to be too wide. And he found a way to do it. And it works, and it carries really well. You've got 2 loops for the belt here. And it's nice. I appreciate Nick very, very much. So let me grab some more knives. Well, here are some of my odds. This knife, there's no good reason to keep this knife except for sentimental reasons. My father gave me this knife a long time ago. It's pretty cheap, very soft steel, lockback knife. But I think a lot of people have knives like this that they got from their parent, their father. I drilled it out myself back here a long time ago. I couldn't quite get through the hardened steel, the back spring, so I just put a split ring around it so that I could keep track of it, hang it on my keychain or whatever. That's when I was old enough to start driving. But yeah, here we go. Thanks, Dad. I still have it. My dad's given me other knives too that I no longer have, but I've got this one. Tuya. I don't have very many Tuya knives. I think just this one. This is the S&S. A little bit of a recurve there. This is a nice little knife. I'd love to have more Tuya knives. I was given a very nice prototype knife at Blade Show 2019. Gritomatic.com paid my way to go there. I was going to volunteer work at his booth, but he didn't get his visa on time to get to the United States to do that booth at that Blade Show, but he had already paid for my ticket to fly from Calgary to Atlanta. So I was there doing nothing, so I hung around the Tuya booth for a while. A nice guy by the name of Dave Warren. He is the U.S. distributor for Tuya knives. And he's from Kentucky. Kentucky. And he's got a young family. And I think one of his children was sick that day, and so his wife was taking care of him. And they've got 2 kids. And he was busy running this table all by himself at his booth at the Blade Show. So I helped him out. And he gave me a prototype knife, and it got confiscated at the border at Canada. Yeah, I was so upset. Because he was willing to give me a nice knife that he had one of. And, maybe in China there was a couple more, but there was one of them in the United States. And at the end of Blade Show, he gave it to me, and it's gone. But yeah, I got this knife. I can't remember exactly if he gave me this knife. If not, he gave me a super discount on this knife. It's S35VN stainless steel blade, number 46, limited edition. These are very nice knives if you can get your hand on them. If you want a small knife that is fairly high-end, very user-friendly, this one's still got the factory edge on it. I haven't done much with it at all. I just like this knife. Very, very nice. And I do have to keep going. This knife was given to me by a viewer as well. This is from the UK. This is a budget locking knife from the UK. It's called CK Lock Knife, press to close. So there's the liner lock arm. You know, it's got a fair bit of blade play. I'll hold my hand still. That's a fair bit of blade play up and down. But it's got a lock. And there we go. It's also got back spring in here that has a lot of pressure holding it closed. So, and this is just a plastic handle. We've got this knife. Oh, I've left a little bit of residue on there. Since my skin's oily, it really marks up these knives. This is my first and only integral knife. This is from Blade Runner Systems. The CEO there sent this knife to me when I started reviewing Revo knives, because BRS owns Revo knives. This is their Evolve Integral in green. And yeah, she's a nice knife. I believe it's S35VN. Nice drop point here. Nice, just gentle belly. There's lots good about this knife. I quite like it. I don't carry this out in public very much. And due to COVID, I can't really show very many people this knife. I did do a video on it. So this knife, I think is it $399 US or is it $299? Anyways, it's $300 or $400 US to buy this knife. I'll put it on the screen. It's just nice. It's really, really nice. And I'm so very thankful that I get to have things like this just out of the generosity of some people. And I try to be generous too. But I probably won't be giving this away. You heard the story when I did the unboxing for this just a little while ago. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep this in the long term, but certainly for the short term, I'm going to keep this. I still have to do my video about it. It's one of the flaws is on narrow knives from the spine to the belly. Frame locks that are narrow this way tend to be, especially if you're left-handed, you can't open them that well because you end up pushing down on the frame lock arm and then you can't overcome the detent. And then when you do, it just sort of just falls out a little bit. In the right hand, it's easier. But so I'm not sure if I'm going to be keeping this long term or not. But this is a Massdrop knife. After that, it was called Drop. And Ferum Forge designed and made, but collaborative with Massdrop. You can't get these anymore except for on the used market. Another knife that a viewer gave me. This is from World War II era Allies electrician knife. So you've got sort of a pen knife here. It's fairly thick. It's a pretty strong knife. Quite nice, full flat grind. I've sharpened it up quite well. It's got a liner lock. This brass arm in there is the, is that the liner lock? No, yeah, that's the liner lock for the other arm. But this is just a slip joint here. So let's close it. And then this acts like a liner lock on this side. So we've got a pry tool or a flat screwdriver. And flat screws were the most common thing then. I sharpened up this edge. I'm not sure if it was supposed to be all that sharp. But yeah, an electrician or, communication system worker, soldier during the war, they got issued these on the Allied side. So quite nice. And they were popular for years after that as well still. So some Opinels. I've got two Opinels. I've got a number 8 in stainless steel. And I think this is a number 12. Yeah, right there it says number 12. This is a number 7, sorry. A number 7 in stainless steel and a number 12 in carbon steel. We've used this one an awful lot when we go camping. It's so very light. It's a little bit big, but it's so very light in the pack to pack in to the campsite and stuff. We usually do car camping, but sometimes you still got to carry stuff a little ways sometimes. So nice and light knife, great for food prep and stuff like that. So that's this series of odds and ends. What are we going to look at next? Well, actually, just before. My other two sword knives, I showed you the Amerikiwi, and I've had other sword knives too, even better ones that I talked about in the last video. These is the Peasant and the Peasant Mini. There's also a Micro, and then they've got Giant too, really large ones. 15N20 carbon steel, quite nice, convex grind on them. Very comfortable, very user-friendly. If you don't have a sword knife, you should consider getting one. These are actually very good knives to use. And, you know, if a buddy comes over and he wants to borrow a knife, let him borrow this. And he'll become a convert to sword knives as well. And they won't hurt themselves because there's no spring action on it. There's no tension on it anyway. It's just a friction folder. It's just a safe friction folder, and I guess that's my cue to go get Bandit again. Here's my QSP knives. Here's my worker that I've added a thumb stud to. It's a nice knife. Arthur Brem from Germany is the designer of this knife. I've taken the pocket clip off, and I ground down the thumb stud so that it still fits really well into the sheath. So that's quite nice. We've got the Hawk in wood. You can also get it in a Damascus blade. This is S35VN stainless steel. And I don't know, this isn't olive wood for sure. It's not olive wood. It looks way too different. But nice wood, a very oily wood. Yes, this is an exotic South American wood. I forget exactly what it's called. But I remember when I did the video. Yeah. Good knife. I really like this thing. I like thumb studs. So as you can tell, thumb stud knife, thumb stud knife, thumb stud knife. This is the Songbird. Yes, Songbird. This was given to me by the guys at Blade Show at the QSP table. Very, very nice knife. I like it an awful lot. Titanium, carbon fiber inlay, S35VN blade again. Just like a slight talon kind of blade. Very slight recurve. Very user-friendly knife. And totally safe for me to have in Canada because it's not a flipper, so it's not going to get stopped if I go across the border with it. And the blade does not want to come out if I just do a hard shake. So if it can, they call that gravity knives or centrifugal. They call that a centrifugal knife. This is a beautiful knife. I like it an awful lot. I was looking at the screen again on the camera instead of what I was doing. And this one, this is new. Again, S35VN, so all three of these are. Of course, you can get the D2 version. I just gave my most recent D2 version to my latest winner of the Olight. I decided to send her a knife as well for Becky M. And the S35VN comes, I could find it in two different knives, handle scales at was it Knife Works? One of the US stores. And I really liked the denim micarta that one of them had, but it was D2. And I found this red one I think I got this from Drop as well, Massdrop, but it had D2 steel. The denim micarta one had the S35 VN, so I swapped the handle scales over, and so I gave away the D2 version and kept this S35 VN steel version. Love this knife. Great knife for EDC, especially in a place, where people are afraid of knives. The tip of this knife, it's not something to be afraid of. So quite nice. I quite like red as well, and this micarta is just really nice. I'm very much enjoying it. So those are the 4 QSP knives that I have. Here's my, well, actually I showed you the other one, that really small Tucson knife that are in my collection. I have some more Tucson knives in my possession, but they're not yet in my collection. I've got to either review them and decide if I want to keep them or sell them or not, but these are in my collection. This is a slip joint S90V blade. It's got a shredded carbon fiber handle scales and strong half stop. The back spring's strong, and this is a nice knife. I do wish on slip joints. Slip joints are the one kind of knife that I would prefer to have a lanyard hole, to put them into a sleeve. By the way, this is what I would put into a sleeve instead of just letting it loose in my pocket. Very nice knife. Got this guy recently. This is the, I can't remember the numbers. I guess I'll have to put it on the screen. But 14C28N, it's got a forward choil that works for me. And this is a good user knife. Not that expensive. I think they were like 45, 49, something like that, US dollars. Bright orange. I wouldn't mind maybe dyeing it to purple. I haven't done any dyeing videos yet. Lee at Love Them Knives does a lot of dyeing. It's also a front flipper, for sort of a front flipper, or thumb stud deployment. I really like thumb studs, so I use the thumb stud deployment. And this guy, Wong Design. Actually, this one's a Wong Design. This one doesn't say who the designer is. And this is another slip joint. This is titanium and copper. And if you look at, let's close it up here so I can show you the end. So it's not just a little layer of copper. That's a slab of copper that's been fit right in there, milled to fit in. It's got a pocket clip, titanium pocket clip, which I quite like. And it's also a very strong spring on it. Nice classic clip point blade. M390 blade on this guy. These are like $89 right now. Quite nice. Next, a few little odds and ends. Griptilian, thanks to a viewer of mine. S30V on these. By Benchmade. Benchmade Griptilian. The only thing I don't like is how loud and hollow sounding they are. White Mountain Knives sometimes has Flytanium handle scales, and I might invest in some good handle scales for this instead of the FRN ones. This is my buck knife, other than that tiny little one that you saw earlier, the Buck 110. And so this is, the classic lockback knife from them. Comes in a number of different ways. You can get S35 VN now and stuff, but this is the 420 high carbon stainless steel, which is quite nice. It's a decent knife. So yeah, got one of those. I've got 2 Civivis that I've kept in my collection. We've got, I just reviewed this one this year, 2021. In Damascus, a forward choil that's just barely big enough for me to use. This one's a little bit tighter. I nicked myself on that one. But ever since the pin here, when I took it apart, it wrecked this FRN material. So technically it can spin a little bit freely. So I figured instead of discounting it tremendously to sell it, I would keep this one for myself. I like the nice bright colors. Not always, but every once in a while. Nice hollow grind. Really good blade, not too heavy. Good user knife. Oh, by the way, the steel is 9CR18 MOV on this guy. And a nice Damascus over here. Well, here's my medium-size SANRENMU knives. This is the 7112. You remember seeing the 4112. Hopefully you remember seeing it. I'll push these to the side so the background isn't quite as distracting. Very nice little knife. You can still get these, not very much money. Really strong back spring, but it is a slip joint knife. Again, these tiny pocket clips that they keep doing tip down. But I often put a keychain ring on it and take the pocket clip off. And you get a 7cm knife, which is over 2 inches. So yeah, 2.5 inches. Yeah, there you go. 7 centimeters, 2.5 inch blade. So it's a very usable knife. It can do an awful lot of good stuff that you want to do. So I really like that. Here's a lockback knife. This is an old version. This is before they did their 7000 series. This is the 783. 8CR13 MOV, coated blade, lockback system. Big pocket clip, but yet tip down. They really like their tip down clips. And one hand opening, no problem. And 2 hand closing, if to be safe. Full flat grind. It's a nice knife. Another slip joint that I really like, and you can still get these as well. This is a Windrunner design. This is the 7095. But you got to be aware, SANRENMU has done some weird stuff. They've got 2 totally different models called the 7095. It's kind of strange. But this is a very comfortable knife, hollow grind. The plunge should have been a little quicker. You can see how thick it gets right there, but nice. I think it's 8CR13 MOV steel, or maybe it's 12C27. Another tungsten tipped glass breaker, and slip and multi-tool. So I often have this knife in glove box in the car. Another funky knife that I really like, and they've had this in several sizes, or 2 sizes, I think. This is the 7046 LTX-LK-T3. It's a Liang Gang design, who's also done a lot of some of the early models for real steel. We've got a thumb pad, which acts like a thumb stud to open it up. It's a liner lock, tip up, tip down pocket clip. And yes, it's in the tip down position. I don't mind tip down at all. I carry tip down quite often. Glass breaker. The really small one's got these multi-tools that fold out, but this one's got a nut driver on the side. It's in metric, but that's odd, isn't it? And a very funky looking blade. We've got a chisel grind, so it's only sharpened on one side, and a chisel tip. That's very odd. So I've sharpened that entire surface to get to a nice sharp edge, and then along there, and this side's just the factory machine side and a swedge up here. It's actually a very good knife for a lot of different jobs. I've used it for a lot of getting adhesive off. Since you've got a flat edge on the front there, so you can get underneath stuff, you can scrape things away really, really well with that edge. And then you've got a corner as well to get under things. And since it gets thick right away, you can pry stuff with that if you want to. It's actually one of the few kinds of knives you can pry with without hurting the knife at all. There's this guy. This is the 7071. We've got a drop point Western Tanto, tip down only frame lock, all steel construction, thumb stud deployment. We've got a hollow grind on here and then the flat grind for the leading edge there. Nice knife. It's gotten a little loose with use. I'll tighten up that pivot pin. Just a very small screw here for the pivot pin. T6, I think it is. So not everything about SANRENMU is great, but a lot of things are. Oh, bottle opener. They've made this so that you can use that as a bottle opener. Kind of nice. Another one of their older knives that I love. This is one of my favorite knives from them. A Windrunner design, the 7076. You can get it in several different colors. Liner lock, tip up or tip down, one of those little pocket clips. And these just have washers, and it just flies out. It's got very, very smooth washers on there. Barely have to push on that flipper tab, and it comes down right away. And for a light knife, it's just a good knife. I really like this thing. We've got a hollow grind in here. Beautiful blade. Nice handle. If you can get your hands on one of these, I think you're going to like it if you're into smaller knives at all. So these are all in the 7000 series or 700 series. There's this guy. This is, yes, it's a buck kind of, it's a copy. It had weird words on the side here, so I put it in my stonewash machine. Well, first I sanded it down and put it in my stonewash equipment. It had a finish like this, except for with words on it. And my stonewash gave it this sort of matte look to it, at least on that side. I guess I should have done this side as well. I figured, though, that I might wreck the detent in my stonewash machine, so I didn't do that. Again, tip down, but 3 screws to hold it. We've got a hollow grind, quite thin behind the grind. Nice tip for piercing into things. It's sort of a forward choil there even, which I have used it this way quite often, just to get my finger up there. It's a nice little knife. Enland made a knife that was a copy of this as well, and it looks very much the same. The spacing for these screws is different, so totally different production run, but basically the same style. There's this guy, which I'll be keeping, the 7315. Comes in a few colors, 3 colors, or solid carbon, not solid carbon fiber, carbon fiber laminate. See, they've upgraded now. Now they've got these flush screws, a lot like Kubi and Tucson use. Very nice. Lanyard pin back here. Their new ambi clip that can go on either side. Clickety click, and it's changed. And really nice knife. I like this knife an awful lot. And not very pricey. Anodized pivot collar. The carbon fiber laminate ones comes just with a steel pocket clip instead of anodized steel pocket clip. And then there's these guys. These are 2 other of the 7010. This one's got sort of an animal print to it, but a stainless steel. You can get them in gray wash. You can get black coated blades. You can get them so many different ways. Very smooth action on most of these. The blade just flies out, and then they're rock solid once the blade's deployed. This one's got G10 on one side. It's got a washer between the G10 and the blade. Whoops, I hit the knife. This one's also very light, very fast. If you're only ever going to get one SANRENMU knife, the 7010 is the one that you should get. Oh, I'm a little bit off screen there. So, yeah. I've still got 10 all-steel ones. The LUC-SA, this one's the LUC-SD, and this one was an exclusive one for some company. Yeah, really nice knives. So that's my 7000 series SANRENMU knives. Let's kick it up a notch. Well, 2 notches. First 1 notch. This is the 8000 series of the same knife. I think it's 8CR14 MOV steel blade, stonewash, 8103. I generally carry this one in a sleeve. That's why the pocket clip's off. Really nice. A sleeve that I got from Popov Leather, which is in British Columbia, Canada. Really nice. So 7 centimeters, 8 centimeters. 7 centimeters, 8 centimeters, and 9 centimeters. So they just keep getting bigger. Kind of wish they would have made an even smaller one as well. So this is more like the size of, a real Sebenza. 12C27 on this one. You can get them with S35 VN and titanium as well. Even this one. And, oops, I had my finger in the way. There we go. Nice. I've got it that way as a frame lock. I've also got it as a liner lock. This one's got the black wash blade and the black liners, black G10, black, just the blue thumb studs. So nice. I really like these. Such smooth action, and it's just washers. Washers used to be just fine. And yeah, these are some nice knives. The 7010, the 8103, the 9104, and the 9105. And I think the 9103 is just the stone wash. And the 9106 has OD green handle scales and satin blade. Nice knives. Now, the rest of my SANRENMU knives. So here's my 9000 series knives. First, a couple slip joints. This knife is still available. This is the 9055 hollow grind. A little bit of a recurve there. Pocket clip, tip up or tip down. Bright orange anodized backspacer, lanyard hole. Nice knife, and it's a slip. It's got a really tough double detent slip joint, so it holds it in the open position, and I really, really like this. I'm not sure if you can get it in this color, but they certainly have it in the black and white G10 and some other ways, and I think they're under $20. It's either 8C13 or 12C27 stainless steel, and just a really nice slip joint knife. Another slip joint knife that I've got, which you may have seen the review of, this one's the 9165, and this came out just when they started the new SANRENMU logo, the long word written out in the English letters, and it's a slip joint knife with a back spring. And you notice something funky here. There's a pin that you can pull out with your nail. And when the knife is open, you can put the pin in there. And now it's a locked folder. So it's a slip joint that you can use as a locked folder. It's got some residue there because I actually use this knife. And so it's got the Chinese characters, and then on the pocket clip it says SANRENMU. Very, very nice. I like this knife a lot. I think I sold the first one. Oops. That's the one risk. You can lose those pins. I think I sold the first one that I had. And now I've got this one, and this one's going to definitely stay in my collection, if at all possible. And then I've got 3 others. This one's from a little bit longer ago, meaning I've had it for a longer time. Right and left tip-up pocket clip. There's a tungsten-tipped glass breaker there as well. Flipper. Nice blade. And there's that SANRENMU logo written out. They don't use that hardly anymore at all. That was sort of a short-term transition. Liner lock. It's got that weird little lock up top to stop you from being able to disengage the liner lock. Really don't like that, but it's there. And it's quite nice. It's one of the first of their larger knives with ball bearings. A little thick behind the grind, but quite nice. Very good grip in hand. And newer is the 9201. If you remember this review. And then there's the 92.0, I think it's a 3, where the spine of the blade comes up a little higher. Slightly different blade shape, same handle. You can get it in black or this brown. Nice access lock. Nice knife. I quite like it. Quite like it indeed. And the most recent one that I've got of theirs, hopefully I can get some more. This has got a anodized pocket clip, right side only, tip up. And it's a front flipper D2 blade. And yeah, the review of this wasn't too terribly long ago. I think it was in 2021 or right at the end of 2020. Very light. Not much weight on this knife at all. So that's SANREMU. I've got to insert a little bit here. I found these when I was packing my stuff back up because I knew there was a couple more knives that I hadn't found. This is the Civivi Dogma. Yes, the Dogma. It also comes in, you can get it in brass or, is it copper? Anyways, you can get metal handle versions of these. It's a nice knife. I really like how this looks. I like the buoy style quite a lot. And the forward choil is big enough. Just barely, but it's big enough. Right and left pocket clip. Nice, nice knife. It's got that jigging kind of on it. That's the Dogma by Civivi. And this knife, the QSP Puffin. The QSP Puffin S35VN. Nice knife. They also have a two-hand opening version, so no thumb stud. And yeah, for Europeans, that, you know, I guess a number of European countries have two-hand opening laws. It's a nice frame lock knife. This one's S35VN, and I like it. I quite like it a lot. It's a size that I really like. It might be a tiny bit small in the handle from what I prefer, but it just gets in there. It's pretty nice. Oh, there's a little bit of oil there. I guess some oil ran out after I'd put it into storage for a little while. But there we go. Yes, carbon fiber insert. Not sure if, I don't remember off the top of my head if that's titanium or steel. But really nice knife. I like this, you know, simple drop point blade. Very user-friendly. When Canadian Cutting Edge was young, I found out about GANZO knives. And this is the first model of GANZO knife that I got. Not the first knife, but the first model. The first one I got, I think, was in OD green. This is the G704. And it came in about 6 or 7 different colors. And I bought this knife. I paid full price for it. And I found it at GearBest. Those of you who've been with my channel for a long time remember the GearBest days. And after a while, I tried to collect all of them. And I found out about some other websites, Chinese stores that sold GANZO knives. And I just really, really like this knife. This is a good knife. We've got a drop point. We've got a saber grind. It's bead blasted, which I don't really mind that much, but some people do. Pocket clip, right and left. Deep carry pocket clip. This is a good, hard-working blade. A little bit thick behind the grind, but I really, really liked it. The red was the hardest to find at that time, so I bought the red finally, and I had every single one of them. In fact, in this GANZO section, I had over 100 different GANZO knives at the peak. It's a brand I just fell in love with. I really, really liked. The G-Series knives and most of the F-Series knives are 440C stainless steel, which is a good budget stainless steel. Good durability, good edge retention. It's a inexpensive stainless steel that deserves a whole lot more attention than it's getting. And I quite like it. So the G704. Let's do these in numerical order. What I've got left now is the G717. Yes, this is a copy of a Savenza with G10 handle scales and rounded spine and a saber grind. Axis lock, which they we had here as well, which of course they borrowed from Benchmade before they were legally allowed to borrow from Benchmade. So, but this is a good knife. It feels good in the hand. The pocket clip's too far down for me, but not bad. Look at the size of these screws. I don't like it that they're button screws, but I wish way more knives had bigger body screws. This is the only one of GANZO's knives that has these bigger screws. But I wish they'd have a screw size for the body that's between these two. That would be really, really nice. Next, we've got the G722. This is a design that was borrowed from Lion Steel. And it's got that sort of pineapple. That's the word I'm looking for. Sort of pineapple style texture on the G10. Thick, heavy blade, high flat grind. It's a frame lock. Check that out. See how thin that line is? You could barely fit a hair in there, a human hair. And GANZO was doing this, years ago when most other knife makers were charging many times more the price of a GANZO, and they'd have huge trenches in there, like the budget Kershaw knives that are the frame locks. They've got a huge trench where they cut out. But this wire EDM technology, over travel protection in a frame lock knife that was, $15, $16 at the time. And that's only like 5 years ago. It's amazing. Big, heavy duty, solid knife like this. If you want something big and strong. These all have washers until the very last GANZO that I'm going to show you. Both are phosphor bronze on this guy. Now this knife has been around, or available I should say, as recently as a couple of months ago. I saw it again. It's got a tip-down pocket clip, which I don't mind. I did a video on tip-up and tip-down pocket clips, and I used knives like this to test it with. Knives that had both tip-up and tip-down, right and left. And then I could test, when I did an actual test, how quick it is to deploy the knife. Tip-up and tip-down, basically the same thing. You can watch my video on that if you want to. Just look up tip-up, tip-down under Canadian Cutting Edge. This knife, weighty enough that, and thumb stud, when you get it going, the flies open. It's that same nice wire EDM technology, over travel stop protection, fairly deep carry, and good texture on here for adding grip. Big jimping on the thumb rest and on the riser of the blade there. That's a hard-working knife. And surprisingly, that pocket clip does not get hot in the hand. Next is the G727M. They have more recently made the G727S. I guess they are copying Ontario and making two different sizes. This is a little bit smaller than the Ontario Rat 1, so it's between the sizes of the Ontario Rats. You see a little bit of texture stuff here. That's because I sanded it down, and then I put a new finish on these, and the finish that I chose was not a good finish. So that's my fault that you're seeing these spots on here. But I really like the wood finish. These are, I think, impossible to find right now. With G10, I think you can find them as the F727M. This one is the G730, and they've got, they had it with just regular flat G10, but they also had it with this milled out texture. And of course, This is a copy of a Spyderco. They've got the nice half forward choil, good thumb rest area. It's a comfortable knife, and a little thick behind the grind. I scratched it up along here, and on this side when I was sharpening it on a work sharp, the belt-driven work sharp system, well, motor-driven belt sharpening. And so right now this has got a convex grind on it, and it's actually quite nice. This guy is the G734, so very much the same, slightly different handle shape, and of course a different blade shape, but very similar, cutting edge. That's not much different one from the other. If you put them next to each other like that, the cutting edge is very, very much the same. And so the performance is basically identical. This one's a liner lock. Well, this one was a liner lock too. These also came in slightly different numbers as axis locks as well as frame locks. And one of them that I really liked in wood and everything is the G738. So nice blade. They've got a swedge up here. Right and left pocket clip. Again, wood. It came in G10 as well. I sold all those off that I had in G10. Beautiful little knife. Very comfortable. Any which way you want to hold it, this is a good knife. Like I said, I like thumb studs. Next, we got another one. This one, I think they said is ebony. They had it in a couple different types of wood. This is the G741. And yeah, it's a nice knife. You've got at the pommel end of the handle, you've got a little bit of a guard. And certainly this works for big hands, even larger hands than I have. Nice drop point blade. Just a classic blade shape that is very, very user-friendly, very EDC-able. And decent thickness. Almost all of these, maybe even all of these, are just a little bit over 1/8 of an inch thick. And you can see there's some scratch marks on here. I've carried this knife quite a lot. And this one, the G724, we got, the same thing again, the over travel stop. I put the pocket clip on the left side for this one, and very comfortable in hand. I usually carry a knife, one on each side, but usually the one on the left side is a little bit of a smaller knife, but had this one on the left side for a while. Again, right and left pocket clips. That same blade shape that we had over here. It's basically the same knife, just this one's an axis lock and this one's a frame lock. So G741, G742, and then they started doing some more funky stuff. Here's a liner lock that looks a bit like a frame lock, right where the working end of the locking mechanism is. This knife, it lockups a little bit later than I like, but it's nice and light. You got the thumb stud or the flipper, and it just snaps. It's got beautiful action. It just wants to fly. A little bit loud and very smooth. It just wants to go down. Blade centering's a tiny bit off. I think I need to tighten up that pivot screw a little bit. Yep, that pivot screw's a little bit loose. I guess I don't have any thread mate in there. But yeah, see, I've just tightened it up a little bit with my thumb, and now the blade centering is perfect again. And it's not assisted. There's no spring in here. It sounds like it is, but there isn't. Fun knife, if you don't mind getting a little bit loud volume. This is the G752, which I really like. We've got a fuller here, which I think this is the only Ganzo that's got a nice fuller, or got a fuller. Nice drop point. This was when they started, you saw it here too, that's when they started changing to the Firebird branding. That's when they were doing that blue hardware as well. I got some spare hardware, but not a pivot. Well, I don't remember if I wrecked this one too, but GANZO sent me some hardware, but not enough for me to fix this one. And so this one's got a nice pivot screw here, pivot pin. A nice screw on that side. Nothing is stripped out. Nice pocket clip, deep carry again. And nice liner lock. Lockup on this one is excellent. It's a little bit, actually here, let me see. It's fully engaged if you open the knife all the way, and I did spine whack testing on it. It holds, and I wish the two of these would compromise and even themselves out in this lockup to be. I can make it a little bit later. I could just take some steel off, but I can't fix late lockup and make it earlier. Well, I can, but it's tricky, very tricky. Skeletonized liners, nice light knife. Some jimping on the spine here, to help give on the spine of the backspacer. Very, very good user knife, if I say so myself. The G752. Now I've also got this little guy. This is the only F-Series knife that I still got. I sold all the F-Series knives off, and most of my G-Series knives I've sold off back when I really had a tight financial time. Kept this one. This one was selling for, I think, $15, $13, $14, $15 when it first came out. We've got FRN handle scales, and they did that smooth section here, just like Spyderco does. Tip up, tip down, 4-way pocket clip. Smaller blade. I think it's just over 3 inches if I remember correctly. Yeah, no, it's just under 3 inches. They did, or maybe I shortened it down. I know I shortened down one of them. I think that's. Yeah, I shortened it. You can see that it follows. I don't know if you can see that on there or not. If I go too close, it won't work. But you can see that right at the tip, it drops down just a little bit. And I did that to see how bad it would look to bring it under 3 inches. Because I think when they were first made, they were just a hair over 3 inches long, which is a big deal. But yeah, nice light knife. This guy's under 1/8 of an inch, just barely. But a nice lockback knife. And my last GANZO is from the FH series, which is D2 steel. And this is the latest one that they've put out, the FH 921. Most of them just have 2 digits, but this is the 921. And it's a great knife. The action's very good. It wants to be not quite drop shutty, but it's nice. You've got these, not thumb studs, but this G10 that's milled with steps on it for opening the knife. But you can take them back. You can take them all the way out, and then you've got a nice hole. And the hole you can use to Spidey flick. You can Spidey flick these studs as well. Some people really dislike having anything in the way. If they cut through stuff, it gets caught on there. Well, you can take those out and have a hole there and still have great deployment of the knife. A big part of the reason I've left them in there is I don't want to lose them. I want to keep them with the knife. You've also got the flipper. It's great. The blade, not too thick. It's a little thinner behind the grind than the earlier GANZOs are. The distal taper starts about halfway down. So it's a nice delicate tip on this. Not so delicate that it's weak, but it's more delicate than any of these other knives. They stay thick behind the grind much longer, or behind the tip, I should say. And good hand feel. This handle's really nice. And by this time, they started doing the spacers for the pocket clip. Of course, I'd like to keep all the knives that I review. I would have a collection over 1,000 strong. But I've been able to keep some, and I am so happy that I've been able to keep some. So that's my Ganzos. And my final 5 knives or so. There's this guy. This one's Ostap Hell designed, VG10, the G-Slip. The G-Slip. I had this in G10, and I quite liked it. And I found out they had it with olive wood, and it was only in Germany. Now it's also in America. But at that time, it was only in Germany, so I had this imported from Germany because I like Ostap Hell's knives so much. And this is a nice slip joint, 2/3 stop, full flat grind. Very nice. VG10 steel. There is a lanyard option right there. There's one con with these wooden ones, and that is these are decorative screws. The pivot screw is actually just a tiny bit off center from this, even further down. So this is already off center down this way. It's not in the center between the two sides, it's down a bit, but the screw itself is over a little bit. And so you take these off, and then underneath there's the pivot screw. But for this to hold, they put a tiny little metal sleeve in the wood, a threaded sleeve that this screws into. Well, it was just raw wood, so I took it apart and I sealed the wood, and that little threaded insert disappeared. So on the off side, I decided that I was lucky it was on the off side. I used some hot glue and I glued this in. So I can still open it up and tighten up the pivot if I need to. Very fortunate that way, but not quite perfect. So I'm going to keep it for 2 reasons. One, it's Ostap Hell, and one, it's no longer in new condition. We've got these Lunas. I'm very confident that I'm going to be keeping this. This is the Luna Boost. It's the frame lock version of the Luna in titanium. They've got the frame lock version in stainless steel now, and that's called the Luna Echo. And just the Luna itself is the slip joint version. Very nice. It comes in loads of different colors of G10, and you can get it in either coated or uncoated. I'm not sure if they've got stain wash, but certainly the satin D2, and this is Bowler N690. And my last 2 knives, there's this one, which I finally got back again. I don't know why I sold it after I got it, but the E751, it's also in black wash, and I would give this up in a heartbeat if I could find the S571 Pro. That was with Elmax steel, titanium handle scales. I got that thing, and I got it for a very good deal, but I had to sell it. I had to sell it because financially I just had to sell 99% of my knives at that time. So I've got the steel version instead, because the titanium one, they made 599 of them, and that's it. That's all there was. And I think I had number 33 or whatever. And yeah, so sad when I had to get rid of it. So I quite like this knife. This is, I forget who the designer is on this, but maybe it's just in-house real steel design. Quite a nice knife. Finally, the very last knife you're going to see is the G5 Metamorph. I wish I had more of the different Metamorph knives. Front flipper, Ostap Hell design. Really nice knife. I quite like it. This is not my favorite knife, but it's quite nice. N690 steel, deep pocket clip. Nice knife. So there is my collection of knives that I have. Yeah, go ahead. Tell me what you think in the comments. I'm not sure if I'll be able to respond to all the comments. I don't know how many comments there are going to be. I'm finding it harder and harder to respond to all the comments, but that's just the way it goes. That's the collection that I have right now. Is it going to change? Most definitely it's going to change, but these are the ones that I would call my permanent collection at this point. So thanks for watching. Thanks for liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing. And remember, friends, cut towards your chum, not your thumb. Bye for now.